All right, we are here on the banks of the beautiful Devil Track River. It is October, gorgeous fall day. We've got some fly anglers just down the river from us here. I'm with a pal of the podcast and Paddle Portage, Jim Crigler. Good to see you, Jim.
Yeah.
Nice. I'm glad you're back up the shore here near the Boundary Waters.
Good to see you too. I'm happy to be here. It's a lovely day, beautiful day.
Yeah, it's gorgeous out here, as you can probably tell just by looking at the river behind us, and it's just almost picturesque, like we couldn't have scripted it any better. We're going to be talking about Jim's new book, Echoes on the Water, and I've read that book. Jim sent it to me. It's now available, and we're going to focus our conversation on that today. But before we do, let's hear about your summer. If you got up the Boundary Waters, did any paddling up the trail or anything this summer?
Of course, every year. I come up to the Boundary Waters. I've got 245 days up there. My bucket list is 365, so I can say I've spent a full year in the Boundary Waters.
Yeah.
So I got 20 days to go, and I'm pretty excited about doing that next year. So.
Yeah. So you're at 345. Is that what you say?
I'm sorry, 245.
Okay.
Oh, excuse me, 345 days. On my way to 365 days to get a full year in. So
you're like 20. You are gonna get there maybe next year. Like, are you gonna try to do an epic 20-day trip just to do it?
Probably 2 10-day trips is probably what I'll do. So I don't know if I can get somebody to go with me for 2 20-day trips. And at my age, I don't want to go alone out there. So So.
Okay. Well, we're going to talk about how you solo paddled the entire Mississippi River. We'll get into that here too. But where'd you go this summer? Like, what was the route, or tell us a little bit about the trip?
Well, I went up to Seagull and the end of the Gunflint, and we went in over to Red Rock, and then ended up in Alpine. A real adventure. The storms that came through were like I'd never seen before. We had 2 storms where you're holding your tent so it doesn't fly away, and some of the boats flew down the lake. We had to go get those, but all in all, it was a great trip. It's always an adventure coming up here.
Wow! So your canoes at your campsite went into the water in this storm?
Yeah. Well, we had them down by the lake, and storm picked them up and moved them a couple hundred yards. So.
Okay.
So that happens sometimes. You got to tie them up, and the storm came up on us pretty quickly, and it was all we could do to hold everything together. The canoes we were able to get. So
This was back in the June or July thunderstorms, when was
July.
it? July.
Yeah, it was July thunderstorms.
Were there trees sort of crashing down around camp or any of that?
No, we didn't get that. There were the trees that were in camp were already down. The older ones, mostly it was just young trees that were left there, so we were pretty safe from that perspective. Mm-hmm. But I had 2 novices with me that were kind of scared until they saw me smiling a little bit and saying, "Hey, it's just all in the adventure," So it was pretty interesting.
Yeah. Okay. Well, so the people who follow Paddle Portage, they'll hopefully remember there's an episode that's near and dear to our hearts, which is when we met on Brule Lake last year, and you scattered the ashes of your friend Herb from the Vietnam War. You were both Huey pilots, and there was a sort of a ceremonial event that took place, and you were gracious enough to invite me along, and we produced an episode to that we'll have a link to that here in the description of this conversation, this video podcast. But that was a very meaningful day for us at Paddle Portage. And have you had what are your reflections on that time, Jim?
Well, Herb, I knew him for over 50 years. He was one of my best friends in life, and in fact, the book we're going to talk about in a minute, Herb was very involved in that because he ended up volunteering to be my ground support crew, and I slept in his camper almost most of the way down the Mississippi. I mean, he wanted to help me, so the least that I could do was make sure that his ashes were placed in an area that he loved, and he loved the Boundary Waters. So that's why he's there. And I really appreciate you, filming that and letting the whole world know how special that place is for all of us.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you absolutely, Jim. And so, are you thinking that you'll be going back to Brule for maybe even that when you hit the 365 mile marker milestone?
Yeah, well, there's a reason that I chose Brule. I'm 75 years old right now, and when you're 80, 85 years old, portaging is not probably your biggest pastime. There's no portages to get into Brule. You can just go there, put your gear in, and away you go. And there's a very nice campsite right where we put Herb in. I think that I could get to pretty easily. So I had it all sort of planned out, So and Herb liked Brule too.
Yeah.
We went fishing on Brule many times. Mm-hmm. So it gives me an opportunity to visit his spirit, and even if I'm solo, I can go there. Mm-hmm. So that's why he's there.
Okay. All right. Well, you mentioned your age, 75, but I just saw you scrambling down these rocks to get to the river here through some scree, loose rocks, steep cliff face, and you were tapping into your inner mountain goat there. You look just fine to me, Jim.
Yeah, thank you. But when I do come up and carry my gear, I bring my 45-year-old son with me because he's pretty strong, so he carries the heavy stuff.
Yeah.
So anyway, but that was pretty simple to get down. And especially to get down to this place here. It's so beautiful. What a great place to talk about going down the Mississippi,
Well, so it's interesting because the Devil Track River, which flows into Lake Superior, is a short river. It's like it just, less than 10 miles long, and the Mississippi, of course, is, the nation's great river. Yeah. And so it's good to have that sort of dichotomy, and they, of course, both start here in Minnesota in Lake Itasca is where you started your trip, and the purpose of it, just in summary of the book, is you wanted to honor Gold Star families and recognize those who have been lost in combat, and particularly the Vietnam War, but all military conflicts.
That's correct.
And you worked through media along the way from Minnesota to Iowa, Missouri, on down to New Orleans, and said, if you have somebody who needs the Gold Star and wants this coin, come meet me. And you met a lot of people along the journey, and that's really what the crux of the story is. Sure, it's about your paddling and your experience, but it's mostly about connection and remembrance. Yeah,
that's right. I met 362 Gold Star family members, about 80% of which were Vietnam Gold Star families, and almost every meeting was very emotional. These were all mostly they were children of men that were killed. So now these are people that are in their early 40s, didn't really know their dad, most of them, and each meeting was so emotional. Some I write about, but most I couldn't. It was too emotional for me to write about. So, but you know what? I was able to thank them, to honor them, and to hug them, and I cried with a lot of them. And I gave each and every one of them an honor coin, and they deserved that. They'd never had that before. So unfortunately, most people don't realize this, but we don't even keep a database of our Vietnam Gold Star families. Our government didn't even keep that. Those poor families were swept under the rug, and there were over 58,000 men killed and 8 women, and to not honor the families that have made that sacrifice, to me, was a sacrilege. And so that's really why I went down that river. 2,320 miles of it. The river is 2,500 miles long, but a hurricane stopped me in New Orleans. Mm-hmm. So,
yeah, I think it counts, Jim. You did an incredible, epic journey, and on a mission, of course, as well. And when was it that you paddled the Mississippi?
Well, I was 67, so that was 8 years ago. It was 2017, and it was April 22nd, which is Earth Day. I put my solo canoe into the headwaters at Lake Itasca, and I started off. And it took me, the first day I only went 13, 14 miles because of all the blowdown over the wintertime. I was probably the very first person at that year to go down to Mississippi, so a lot of pullovers, a lot of beavers, dams. So I made it 13 miles to a place called Coffee Pot Landing, which is a campground. And, my first night, I slept through an ice and snowstorm. I had 2-3 inches of ice and snow in my tent when I woke up. And I forgot my long underwear, which I don't know how that happened. But
rookie mistake, Jim.
Yeah, it was a rookie mistake.
and Herb wasn't with you at that point. He intended to be, couldn't, and then either through communication or just whatever logistics he had to navigate and work out, he was able to come and join you shortly. He
wanted to come really badly. He volunteered right off the bat, but he was older than me at the time, about 3 years older than me, and he was diagnosed with AFib, so a heart condition.
Yep.
So his doctor wouldn't let him go. So at the last minute, he had to cancel. So I just packed up my Boundary Waters gear and put it in my canoe, and I camped along the way until I got to Grand Marais, Minnesota. Sorry, not Grand Marais, Grand Rapids, Minnesota, home of Judy Garland. And Herb called me on the phone, and he said, my doctor says I'm good. He says, I'm in Oklahoma. I'll be there in about 15 hours. And I thought, really? And he goes, yeah. He says, where you at? I said, I'm in Grand Rapids. He said, well, just stay there. He said, I got my camper on the back of my pickup truck, and you can sleep on my kitchen table. A table folds into a bed.
Yep.
And so from Grand Rapids on, Herb would drop me off at dawn or 6 o'clock in the morning on the river and pick me up 40, 50 miles downriver. In the meantime, he'd set up camp and always have a hamburger or hot dogs and a can of beans for me or something to eat, because you're pretty hungry after being on the river all day.
Yeah.
And I'd be exhausted, so we'd fold his kitchen table down into a bed and away I'd go. Yeah. So, but that saved me an immense amount of time because, you can imagine setting up camp, breaking down camp. It's 45 minutes to an hour each time you do that. But with Herb's camper, basically he just dropped me off and I would go. So it really saved me a lot of time during the day, and it let me be on the water a lot more than I was. Mm-hmm. So it worked out pretty well.
Yeah, I mean, once Herb enters the book, it's like a game changer in terms of just the logistics and your experience.
Well, he also I had 2 canoes for the trip. The first was a Winona Solo Voyager canoe, a 17-foot long solo, which I needed at the beginning of the trip because the river's so small. But once I hit Grand Rapids, the river's pretty wide, and Herb brought my other canoe up, which was a Winona, Minnesota 2. It's all stripped down. It's got a reverse-engineered rowing system in it called an Easy Row, and it's basically a forward-facing rowing system. So as I'm rowing, I'm looking in the way I'm rowing. So very stable system, very fast system. So instead of paddling, maybe 3 miles an hour, now I'm rowing 7 or 8 miles an hour. So I went from 30 miles a day to 50, 60 miles a day, just like that.
Yeah.
So
plus your buddy's there.
Yeah. Yeah, and he was there to welcome me every day, and it worked out pretty good. A little camaraderie, helps. But I have to say that when you're on the river, you're all alone. I mean, there's nobody but you and your maker there. And boy, the trials and the tribulations that you go through. I told you I forgot my long underwear. I remembered my neoprene gloves, but I forgot my long underwear. And I went through 6, 7, maybe 8 sleet and snowstorms and rain and wind. And, there were times when I was ready to give up and talking to myself saying, you've made it all the way to Brainerd, Minnesota. Who's gonna say you've gone almost 350 miles on the river? That's a good amount. You made a difference. It's okay to quit. Nobody's going to look at you. That's me talking to myself on the river. Mm-hmm. And honestly, I just said a prayer and said, "Help me out. I'm ready to give up. I'm not sure which direction to go." And when I went across that last lake, there's a park in Brainerd called Lum Park. And on that last lake, I got about a mile from the exit point, and I saw, maybe 10 or 12 people there. And Herb was there waiting for me, but it was 2 generals, the mayor, most of the city council, a couple of newspaper reporters, and a couple of Gold Star family members. And when I got within 50 yards, they started applauding me and whooping and hollering. And it was a welcome like I had not gotten before, and actually it was really the answer to my prayers, because it kind of gave me my confidence back, and I never wavered after that. Brainerd, Minnesota was just what I needed to continue that trip all the way down the river. So
yeah. And what can you tell us, or most memorable, or a family, an encounter, an experience? And I know those were very emotional for you, Jim, but just an example of somebody you met that was either a direct sibling or a child or somebody who was an immediate connection to a Gold Star family.
Well, first of all, I met hundreds of them, but the most difficult ones that I met were the ones that were alone, that were by themselves, the 38, 40-year-old, which would have been children of the men that died in Vietnam. In Lake City, Minnesota, I pulled into the boat ramp, the South Lake City boat ramp, about 6 o'clock in the evening, and there was nobody there except one girl she was just sitting on a bench up there, and I pulled up and I started getting my gear off the boat. Herb had not arrived yet to pick me up. He was still setting up camp at Frontenac State Park. And the girl walked over to me and asked me, are you the guy that's going down the river for Gold Star Families? And I said, yes. And she introduced herself, but I don't remember her name. I didn't write it down, but she showed me a picture of her father, who was a helicopter pilot that was killed in Vietnam. Her mother had died, and they never talked about her dad. And so I pulled a coin out of my pocket. I always carry one. I usually carry one. I probably have one in my pocket somewhere. Mm-hmm. Anyway, I pulled a coin out of my pocket, and I gave her the honor coin, and basically said that, there are millions of people that honor and appreciate the sacrifice that her and her family have gone through to protect our freedoms. And it was the very first time that anybody had ever talked to her about her dad or thanked her or honored her. And she looked at me and her lower lip started quivering, and she came over and hugged me and just started crying, just started bawling. And, what do you do in a situation like that? I just cried with her. I just shed tears for her because I wanted to honor her, And so, we talked for a little bit, and she got in her car and she left. She had stopped into that boat ramp just on a happenstance. She had seen me on television in the Twin Cities. I did a bunch of interviews, and she had no idea I was getting out at that boat ramp. She just happened to be there, wanting to see if I was coming by, and I happened to get out at that boat ramp. I don't know how all this stuff happens, but there we were and we met. That was one of many, many times where you meet somebody and it is just an emotional event. These people have not been honored or thanked, and frankly, a lot of them felt like losers, which they were not. Their parent, their father or their mother, mostly fathers that were killed in Vietnam, they were courageous men, and they did their duty, So. And
you and Herb met you both flew helicopters in Vietnam.
Yes, I met Herb in flight school, actually. Okay. Both of us were drafted. Both of us ended up going to Army Helicopter Flight School, which is an officer candidate school for warrant officers at the time. And we were both in the same class. Herb was a valedictorian. I was kind of lower down the totem pole. I wasn't at the top of the class, but I graduated. There were 240 men in our class, and 98 graduated. 97 of us went to Vietnam. Mm-hmm. So,
okay. I want to talk about some other things you share about paddling specific and things on the river that you experienced. You mentioned the inclement weather at the beginning and the sleet and the snow and very cold temperatures. One story that just really stopped me in my tracks, because I've thought about seeing this in the Boundary Waters, is baby geese in this instance, but I've seen a lot of small loons and small ducks in the Boundary Waters, and I've caught a lot of large pike and seen huge 40-inch, 35, 40-inch northerns come out of the Boundary Waters. And I've always wondered if they would, you see a duck or a loon crossing the lake, and
would they get eaten by a fish?
Yeah, a place like Brule, thinking, man, is a pike going to take that thing down? And
they could. And
you saw it.
I actually saw it. I saw probably 10. I saw some Canadian geese swimming across the river, and right behind them was about 10. There were about 5 or 6 geese and about 10 little chicks. And those, I was just floating watching them, and suddenly they circled their chicks, and those chicks started disappearing one at a time. And it was catfish. Catfish in the Mississippi River were eating all these baby geese. They ate every single one of them. And it was the most interesting thing I've really ever seen in nature. I mean, but those geese, I guess catfish have to eat too. They were big catfish, so they ate every single one of them. And it was really a shocker to me, but because I'd never seen anything like that before either.
Yeah, like I say, I mean, I've had that thought about how would I feel, and if I saw that, and I'm assuming this happens in nature as you're describing, but you witnessed it. Like, did that? What was your sort of emotional response to that?
Well, I was actually watching it. My jaw was probably down. I was thinking, "Holy cow! I can't believe this is happening." And then it happened. It didn't take long, and all those geese were, baby geese were gone. The other geese went off towards the shore, and I thought, well, I guess this is nature. And as I was thinking about that, I looked in the middle of the river, and there was a deer swimming across the river. Mm-hmm. All you could see was its head. I'd never seen a deer swim across the Mississippi River before, down by where I live, and so that was pretty interesting as well too. And once a deer realizes that you're a human watching it, they can swim pretty fast. Mm-hmm. And that deer, once it came close to me, we were about to intersect. It put a wake behind it, going towards the shore. But
right.
Nature, part of nature, even up here, animals have to eat. Fish eat, birds eat, things live and they die. That's part of life. We live and we die. And I just happen to be fortunate enough to see one of the events of nature that most people don't get to see. Mm-hmm.
So the Mississippi River, I mean, it's the backbone of the country. It's an iconic river across the globe, and it's the nation's, it's like the spine, the heart of the country.
It's the main artery of our country, and at the beginning of the river, it's crystal clear. Within 100 yards, when I first started, there were huge trout swimming in front of me. I was really shocked at that. And then, of course, the farther downriver you get, probably by the time I got past La Crosse, Wisconsin, it started to get siltier. And by the time you get down to St. Louis, below St. Louis, honestly, the river's it's a commercial ditch. It's very dangerous. And it changes. And I was shocked at the changes. But that river, frankly, to me, I think it's alive. Honestly, many times I thought it was listening to me. Part of the name of the book, my most recent book, is Echoes on the Water, because I would sing to the river. I would sing in cadence, and at first I'd sing pretty softly just for myself. Didn't want anybody to hear my lousy voice. But then I just sang at the top of my lungs because it was just echoes on the water. The only thing listening to me was the river. But that river it may be a ditch below St. Louis, but the whole way along that river, it's alive. The migrating birds follow that river. When I got south of Natchez, Mississippi, there are alligators in that river. There are big alligators in that river. I didn't make it all the way to the sea. I made it to the Moonwalk Steps at the French Quarter in New Orleans. But it is an amazing, amazing river to go down. Yeah. And so, but I have to say this, though. 2017, we had a lot of political strife then. We do now, too, unfortunately. But going down that river, I met probably thousands of people along the way. And there wasn't a stinker in the bunch. Every one of them offered me places to camp or to stay or a shower or a meal. They donated money to my cause. It made me proud to be an American. to go down that river, meeting all those folks. They were so kind. We have a wonderful country, and although I did it initially, I did that trip because I was frankly pissed off at the way we treated our Gold Star families. When I finished that trip, I had a newfound respect for our country. So,
all right. Can I ask what songs you were singing, Jim?
Yeah, you can. Sitting on the Dock of the Bay by Otis Redding, and an old gospel tune called Old Man River. Because as you're rowing, you need a cadence to go, right?
Yeah.
And so, you could sing all kinds of songs to get cadence.
Yeah.
Okay. But I just wanted something to keep me company. But I have to tell you also, you're alone. You're alone on the river by yourself. I had no one that went with me ever. And so, what do? I mean, you could be going through rain or a headwind or a 100-degree day. And, I prayed. I mean, I would row for 50 minutes straight without a break, 25 strokes a minute. And then I would stop and float for 10 minutes. Below St. Louis, the river current's about 6+ miles an hour. Mm-hmm. So I'm still going 6 miles an hour. I'd take a 10-minute break, and I would, I'd pray for guidance. And mostly I prayed that I would say the right things if a camera was ever on me, or if I'm talking to a Gold Star family member, if I would truly be able to honor them, being so tired at the end of a day. I did 200-mile days going down the river.
Wow,
that's a long way.
Yeah, it's an epic journey. It's an important story. It's well written. We're gonna have links right here so you can purchase the book. It's available now. Be a great holiday gift with the holiday season coming up, or just any time of year for anybody that has any connection to the Boundary Waters. Jim knows a lot about the BWCA. He's a Minnesotan, lives down by Winona. If you have somebody who's a veteran, you're looking to share some stories, some meaningful stories, this would be a perfect book to give to someone as well, or just if you have any connection to the rivers of this country and want something that gets out of the politics that we're in right now, these divisive, challenging times. This is a book about coming together and purpose and paddling and intention, and I really enjoyed the book. So thank you, Jim. I appreciate you coming up and being able to meet you here on the Devil Track River, and this has been a really nice time as always.
Happy
to connect.
To be
Yeah, great. I'm wondering if you'll take us out with a song.
Sitting on the dock of the bay, wasting time.
Yeah,
That's it, man.
all right. Thanks, Jim. I appreciate you, man. Thanks a lot.
Happy to.